Welcome back to High Heels to Happy Feels, where we trade burnout for boundaries and clarity for compliance. I'm Natalie,
I'm Stephanie.
and today we're letting it burn. Rage, anger, the fire that says no more. If you've been snappy or tired of biting your tongue or something is boiling under the surface, this is your episode. And it may sound familiar because I kind of went through this episode a couple weeks ago. And we talked a little bit about socials and on socials and through some podcasts, but today we're talking about the fire. So let's talk about fire and why sometimes the most spiritual thing you can do is say no, set it down, and let it burn. So truly, rage isn't our problem. It's actually our message. We have been taught over and over that anger is dangerous. And being calm, like we talked about last week, being calm is professional. And peace equals that you're in control. But what if rage really isn't a breakdown? What if it's just our internal boundary system saying, I have given too much. I'm done being nice at my own expense. I'm not available for this anymore. What we often call losing it, which, yeah, we were just talking about, is actually just reclaiming it, but without support or clarity. That's fire that gets suppressed in us. And then why, what happens when we suppress it? We end up internalizing it. And that's when it turns toxic for us. So, in our last week's podcast, we talked about the grounding for purpose versus grounding to dissociate. So, this week, we're going to talk about the true fire versus the spiritual bypassing of it. So, Steph, why don't you tell us the difference?
Yeah, so and it's great, right? Because this is such a great topic for us. It's so relevant.
Right?
But we're not talking about explosions or passive aggressive text. We're talking about the fire that clears space. And really, here's the difference. So, bypass will sound like I'm fine. I've moved on. I just want peace. But inside, you're so exhausted from pretending that really that more, spiritual fire is going to sound like this crossed a line. I'm not doing this anymore. I deserve better and I'm allowed to act like it. The fire is, well, it's channeled well and it becomes clarity. It motivates decisive action. It dissolves the people pleasing part of you and it demands energetic alignment.
So, yeah. And on top of that, and I want you guys to stretch with me here for just a minute because there's something you may not expect that not all of that anger is yours. Some of your rage or anger or that pent up stuff, it's ancestral, it's inherited. The grief of your grandmother who stayed silent, the power of a woman who never got to choose, the tension of a life you were never meant to live. So, just a little spiritual moment. Light a candle, sit still, maybe say out loud, I release what was never mine to hold because your spirit's going to hear it. So, do the parts of you that you didn't even know you were carrying, let those go. Let's set them afire and burn it down.
Oh,
But we have
absolutely. Yeah,
some other energy aspects coming into play here. So,
big time. Because
yeah.
astrology, right? So we talked a little bit about the astrology of last week, and we've got some big shakers this week too, and some things that are stirring this fire at another level for us. So, first, we're going to talk about Mars, which is the planet of fire and action and boundaries. It's supercharged right now, activating the part of you that's tired of tolerating what drains you,
Ooh.
right? And Mars doesn't ask for permission. It's heating things up. It activates your personal fire, your courage, and really that readiness to quit playing small. Mars is the one that's going to say enough, not this. I am done playing nice at my own expense. But here's the cool part. Here's where it's really going to get interesting for us because Venus just formed a trine with Mars. And
Oh,
right? So that takes on because Venus is all about the love. So a flowing alignment between desire now and action. So we've got that love and that desire from Venus and the action and fire of Mars. And so it's not just about what you're angry about. It's about what you actually want on the other side of that burn. So that Venus and Mars trine, sorry, allergies are kicking my rumpus. Where was I? Venus and trine, or Venus and Mars in this trine. And so a trine is your 120 degrees, right? And it's that permission to ask yourself, what do I desire that I keep talking myself out of? What boundaries do I um, need to set and actually claim that I desire? And what needs to burn so that I can move towards something that's really great? So reflecting on that, right? What do I desire? What am I talking myself out of? What can I be doing to claim that desire? And how do I burn it down so I can move towards something that's really cool?
So shockingly, journal prompts and shadow work coming out of Immersive Spirit podcast.
Shocking, right? No way that we would say shadow work.
Shadow
But
work.
here's more, because Pluto retrograde in Aquarius.
Oh yeah.
So, and that's happening until middle of October of this year. So with Pluto retrograde in Aquarius, and Pluto's your planet of death, rebirth, raw transformation. People think of it as dark, same as Mars, but it's not because they're transformative. And with this is still working in the background. And remember, retrograde is having you really look inward. So you're whispering that transformation. So you're not holding on, but you're letting go with intention. So a couple of questions to ask yourself here is what needs to die so that something real can be reborn? And what version of your old self are you ready to shed? Because Pluto's medicine is destruction, yes, but it comes with purpose. And it's your cosmic reminder that not everything needs to be healed. Some things are meant to end. Venus brings the why, Mars brings the fire, Pluto's bringing that transformation. So this is your moment, folks. Let something false burn. So something true about you can arise. Let it burn. Let yourself be free. Because together, Mars and Pluto are pushing you toward a banner moment, threshold moment. You're going to cross over that threshold and go, whoa, why will you keep swallowing the truth to keep this peace? Or are you going to let the fire rise and free you? Here's the one thing you don't have to torture your whole life. Sometimes fire will look like a single boundary that you are going to finally honor.
Mhm.
A quiet no, because we talked about that a couple of weeks ago when we talked about saying no, right? And what that looks like. But it's that quiet no can change everything. And that pattern to stop feeding, even if it's just your mind. It's that pattern that you want to quit feeding it over and over again. The moon's waning this week because we've just come out of our full moon in Scorpio here recently. And that supports this release as well, reminding you that letting go is all a part of that rotation. So light the match, burn what's false, clear space for what's true. Not everything sacred is soft. Sometimes the most spiritual thing you can do for yourself is to let it burn. All right.
Oh, that's
And I
brilliant.
know there's going to be a spell for this. There has to be, or
So we
something
always add
magical.
magic for our
Yeah.
magic lovers. So we have to, but the magic spell here is really just letting it go. Maybe you could create a spell for sovereignty because letting go with intention is just magic in motion. So there really is no permission needed to do it. The fire doesn't destroy you, it's actually going to free you. So your magic is moving through this and allowing those things to happen. And if you don't, the things that the fire can do to you when you're not going to let it burn it down is burnout from trying to be everything for everybody. Or you resent people or you resent situations because they've never asked you to be you.
Yeah.
And that's, I mean, that's just huge.
That's huge.
The other thing
Resentment.
is, go ahead.
Yeah. Resentment is one of the biggest ones
Hmm.
because you don't even realize you're doing it. You know you're mad about something, but it's because they've never asked you and you've never said.
And it really eats at you. Like when you,
Yeah.
I've had resentment. I mean, I've gone through lots of stuff these last few weeks and all the shadow work I had to do around. Yeah, we've talked about all of that. But when you're resenting something, you wake up with that in the morning.
Hmm.
And it's really hard to recover in a and get into a good place. I don't care how much you ground. I don't, that's like the grounding for disassociation that we had talked about last week. You're doing it out of process, not out of like really getting it done because you're holding on to this. So this is the other side of that. You got to burn it down, let it go.
Hmm.
Yeah. And success feels like a cage when you don't let the fire burn stuff down. So maybe you're having super successful moments, but you feel like you have to. So the solution is not screaming, it's really truly sovereignty.
Hmm.
And that means saying that this isn't working for me anymore, not with drama, with depth. So let it burn because not everything is going to be for you. And you only burn the things that are false.
I love that. And it's
Yeah,
so true because just, and again, yes, it's a shadow work and let it go. Letting go of what's not true for you. Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
So since you bring up shadow work,
Yeah.
there's some questions that can help with this. So we're going to call it our fire inventory since we're talking about letting it burn this week. Where am I saying yes when I mean no? And what's draining me that I keep choosing? So I'm not saying that there's things being pushed on you and you're saying yes to everything. There's some things that you're choosing for yourself that you should just not do that anymore. And what needs to burn out so something that I want to align with burns in. Even like when they're doing what is that called? Forest fire mitigation.
Yeah.
They're pre-burning stuff so new things can grow so that undergrowth isn't there anymore. That clinging stuff isn't there anymore. They
I was
burn all of that out.
I was just thinking about the same thing that you have to. That's the only way we grow, right? You have to deforest a little bit to fertilize that ground and to get that new growth going. So valid. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's how we treat our environment for its health. We need to treat ourselves that same way for our health. And the important aspects of this is don't overthink it. Just let the answers rise. Let the things come up that you need to burn. Let that happen. Listen to your body. Then just do one tiny act of release, even if it's just closing the tab on one of your computer tabs, or if it's not replying to an email. Anything like that can help you start this match. Even like Steph and I both full moon releases, we burn this stuff that is, I mean, we go through our journals and stuff and we take recipes or rituals or spells or things that we really loved or something we want to save and we put that somewhere else. But then the rest of it is no longer meant for us. It's what we've processed through. So we physically burn that.
Yep. We let it go, right?
Yeah.
And it's so important to embrace. Fire is such a powerful element. One of
Mhm.
our four gifts, and it is so amazing to work with, and it gets a really bad rap in the spiritual world, right? As people think of burning, but it's actually just like Natalie was saying with the forest, it is the element of transformation. Each of those elements is going to transform us in some way, but fire burns it down and gives you a path for a whole new growth. And remembering that nothing evolves, nothing cooks without heat. So you got to have that heat to get it to going. And it's
Yeah.
authentic growth. Yeah,
Yeah.
sorry.
And literally, like, folks, think about it. All of the space that all of the things that happen in our mind, old relationships like that maybe we're stuck in or won't let go, or old situations, or a job that maybe you were terminated or laid off from. Fire those things up, let those things go because you're holding space for something that no longer exists. And that's what creates that resentment and that anger and that. So light that stuff on fire and open that space for yourself.
Absolutely. And it's so, and that's true. And I think this is a really good way for us to wrap it because this week, we want you to notice and really look at what's ready to burn,
Hmm.
right? What's it time to just burn it down, let it go? And there is a plethora of things. It could be the smallest. I love the reference to a tab, closing one tab out of the hundred you have open at work or in your personal space or whatever, but closing one tab on your phone. Do you need it open? Close it. Do you really need all those apps open? Do you really need that game open? Do you really any? No, it's going to feel so good. Take space.
Like decluttering, but it's
It
decluttering on a massive scale with fire.
with fire because you're imagining burn, baby, burn. Yeah. And because this is going to create a pattern. It's creating a new pattern for you and it's a new version of you and a belief about what you are capable and powerful to do. And you can you we talked about the grounding last week, right? And really
Yeah.
rooting. And this is a really good opportunity because you can stay rooted while the fire rises. And just
Ooh.
as I think about that, we have like it's the embodiment pack, right? That I think we've got that is going to be the most resourceful here for you, which is free tools. So immersivespiritliving.com. And it's in the body pillar. But yeah, the embodiment pack is going to help you delve into that. So if and that's a continuation, right? Because we're continuing that rooting and that owning your space and then fire. Because you don't have to run from it. You just got to learn to walk through it and not lose yourself in the process.
That's awesome. I love that. Got little chills.
Right? No
Yeah.
chills. Woo. All right. I think that's it.
Yeah,
Did we get it all?
I think so.
Cool. All right. Well, so I will just say that I am Stephanie
I'm Natalie.
and this is High Heels to Happy Feels. And next week we're going to be blowing the lid off of one of the biggest lies in the spiritual culture. And I love this one. I am so excited to do this one that being nice is the same as being spiritual. It's not. We'll see you next Saturday, everybody.
Bye.